guys, welcome to Band Advice TV. This is the Matt and Mark Bout Music Podcast. I am your host, Mark Allen V, and this is my co-host,
Matt Mason.
Matt Mason. Good to see you again, buddy.
You too, man. What's up?
Oh, not much. Just staying busy, just trying to get the podcast going again, and we've already shot a couple, and it's sounding good.
We're in a groove.
We are in a groove. Absolutely.
We've talked about a lot today.
We have. We've only done 2 episodes, and we talked about a lot.
Oh,
so
yeah.
A bunch more.
So, this one, let's talk a little bit about, like, branding.
Ah, yes.
And, like, maybe endorsements.
They both run kind of hand in hand in a way, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
So, picking a band name. How did you go about getting your band name Hurricane Mason?
Okay, so that came about. My friend Tracy, the bass player I played with when I was a little guy, all the way up to just recently. His wife came up with that.
Okay.
And so it's like you gotta have something catchy, and it's hard to come to an agreement. But really, the thing is, it's got to be. Now you can look around. You can see, hey, is there anyone else named this? Is there anyone else named that? Is there anything else, that's remotely close to this, And so I think, back then he had more of a vision of more of an 80s type band than I was really into. And so, I don't know. We just went with it. And, I think it's all right. I'm thinking differently in these other 2 projects I'm working on. Everything, it's got to be instantly recognizable. It's got to be easy to spell. It's got to kind of like conjure up the images of what kind of music you might play, I mean, when you hear, okay, what's this band called? Wolfmother.
Wolfmother.
The Sword.
The Sword. You're starting to get some of that medieval kind of feel to it.
Right.
Right?
So this is going to be stoner rock, doom metal, whatever it is.
We're a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons fans.
Right, exactly. And so, what's in a name? A lot's in a name.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to think that at first. But, if you want to, depending on how far you want to take this, you got to come up with something that's really good and really enduring. Lucas Nelson and the Promise of the Real. That's a great name.
That's cool.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
And so it serves a variety of purposes as far as getting your point across. Just if nobody ever hears your music, what does this sound like? Mm-hmm. The Promise of the Real. Mm-hmm. That means you think, hey, this band, they might want to give me something that's real instead of this sort of plastic shit they try to show out all the time. And so those are effective band names that just really work. And so this new thing I got going, one of them's going to be called the Black Cat Electric Company.
I like that.
I love my Black Cat Onyx and loved all the Black Cats I've had. And, I love Black Cat fireworks. It's pretty limitless as far as like the potential of graphics.
Sure.
The potential of just inferring that, this is an electric experience.
Yes.
Things like that.
Just the superstitious aspect behind the Black Cats, too, right away gives it that kind of a vibe to it.
Yeah, without being like, how many bands have you heard of called Black Cat Bone?
Yeah.
Many.
Okay.
Many. And it's a blues band, and so Black Cat Bone, all right, they're going to play this, 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 and this. You pretty much guessed that. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to spin on that, but this other thing, we haven't come up with a name yet, but it's like, I started the conversation, and I got like, how about free beer? All right, well, that's hilarious, but we're trying to have a serious conversation. How about Dick's Hat Band? I'm the one that's got to book this.
Right.
I'm not going to go for that.
Right. It's one thing when you're cute and kitschy, but you can get overboard real quick.
Well, like my friend that plays in Midlife Crisis,
right.
There is a dozen bands in the United States that are calling themselves Midlife Crisis.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Dr. Lawyer Band.
Right. And what is it? The Dr. Lawyer Band, the hobbyists, the guy. But these guys are super successful at it. Mm-hmm. And so, how do you set yourself apart when there's a dozen other bands in the United States calling themselves the same thing? Wasn't an issue back in the Hit Parader and Metal Edge days. No. It was like, oh, I know a Midlife Crisis from Akron, or I know a Midlife Crisis from Spokane. It wasn't that big an issue. Now, get online.
www.
Now, here we go.
Which
one is it? I couldn't find you. Blah, 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 blah. it's just so important now. You know?
Well, that's a problem I'm running into as well, because I kind of figured I wasn't going to have a whole lot of success selling albums under the name Mark Allen Vierthaler. I mean, people can look at it and still not pronounce it properly. So I went with Mark Allen for many years. Well, there's a Mark Allen that's a Christian singer-songwriter out there. And I would start getting emails from people says, hey, can you come play at our church this Sunday and all? And this is long before I ever got into playing at church. I'm like, if you saw me, you would not want me playing at your church. I'm promising you that. Yeah. So I realized that I was not going to be able to go very far with Mark Allen. So we kind of rebirthed this thing about a year ago. I went with Mark V. Mm-hmm. Put tune out on Spotify and all the other services out there, and all of a sudden it lined me up with this guy named Poogie, Mark V and Poogie. It's like, what? Apparently there's already a guy out there in the hip hop realm called Mark V and partnered with this guy named Poogie. It's like my song is right there with him. So unfortunately, I think half of the plays I got were probably people looking for the Poogmeister. Yeah. But so now I'm going with Mark Allen V, and we'll see how long that lasts until somebody takes it. So, yeah. But I think you're running into a similar situation with your name.
Oh, man. Okay, so Matt Mason is an assumed name.
Really?
Okay, so, and it's sort of like the Major Matt Mason action figure. That's where I came up with it.
Oh, really? I thought you were kind of playing off of Brent Mason, kind of a hero of yours.
Simple.
Okay.
2 consonants, simple to spell.
Okay.
When you're shouting into a phone at a bartender, hey, this is Matt Mason, that's a lot easier. But when Matt Mason from Indiana by way of Nashville got on Nashville Star, I started to get messages that didn't make sense to me, like, you sounded great in Rhode Island last night. Hey, are you going to be at this thing in Kentucky? Hey, I really like your song, E. Hey, I really like this. We're playing this in Pocatello, Idaho. I mean, I've got more messages for him than I do for me.
It's crazy.
And it's like, I mean, I've been throwing off bills on festivals. I've one guy in Pittsburgh, Kansas, was gonna tell on me. I was like, who are you gonna tell? Well, you're an imposter. I'm like, did anything I sent you say that I'd been on Nashville Star? Did anything I sent you say that I was Matt Mason from Noblesville, Indiana, by way of Nashville? No, none of it did. So it's kind of frustrating. But then to thicken it all up, there's another guy named Matt Mason, Mason. And he's got a big push now on alternative radio. And so it's sort of like, those things are really important because I'm serious. It's just like, it's so maddening to think, oh, well, this person wants me to play. We really like your song. I'm like, oh, man, they think I'm the other guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what's the big problem? There can be more than one person with more than one name. Just that Nashville Star really did a lot for him as popularity goes. And so, he's very good. He's very talented. I've sent him messages for years. He never responds. And the possibility of a co-write. Mm-hmm. Tom Hanks, his production company, has been doing this movie called Major Matt Mason, based on the action figure.
Okay.
And I sent him a message. I said, hey, we ought to write this theme song. That'd really mess people
up. Oh, yeah, the 2 Matt Masons for Major Matt Mason. That would be
great.
Awesome.
That'd be great. Never responded.
Yeah, probably.
But I'm not giving up. I don't give up. I'm patient, persistent, polite.
Right. keep going, man. You got yourself on the bill of trout 3 times. So right?
Yeah, man. So just that's the kind of thing you run into just with the World Wide Web,
Right. So a lot of it's got to come down to doing due diligence. Get on Spotify and just, if you have an idea for a name, put it in there. See how many times it comes up, and because this is part of the problem with the DIY push these days and how easy it is for everybody to get their stuff out there is that you're no longer kind of limited to what the record company's going to allow you to put out there as far as your stage name or your band name. I mean, you look back at, I think it was David Bowie's name was actually David Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm. Something like
that. Or David Jones. Mm-hmm. But he had to change it because the monkey, Jones, so he had to pick David Bowie. So you had limitations as to what was going to get out there because the record companies would be very diligent about making sure the branding was proper and not going to be confusing. But these days, you can't, Who would have thought some guy named Mark V, Who would have thought that?
Who'd have thought?
Right, well, shit, should have paid attention, I guess.
Yeah.
So do your due diligence, definitely, on that kind of stuff when you're trying to pick it. Same thing with band names. Oh, gosh, I mean, I can only imagine how many different band names that are out there on Spotify.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, and like, and you start to look, you start to write a list of what you think, hey, this would be good, this would be good, this would be, you can go look and see. Okay, now some of them, you know, they've been used a couple of different times already, you know, and you're like, well, maybe these guys are in Italy and they're kind of doing it at the same level I'm doing it at, but they've already got 2 albums out, they've already toured Europe, they've already done this, so maybe calling yourself, you know, this is not going to really behoove you.
Yeah, but in the days of streaming now, because when you get onto Spotify, it automatically wants to try to pair you up with something that's already there. So if you are suddenly grouped as this artist, then you got to go through all these hoops to get it separated out. Now, going through CD Baby, they have a utility with Spotify to say I want to disconnect or break up or something to that effect. A lot of these other services don't, and you know, Apple and all that. It's like, you know, my stuff's kind of getting grouped in there sometimes. It's like you got to watch out for it. So
yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, you know, if it's a big enough concern, they will already have their thing copywritten, trademarked, whatever it is,
right.
You know. Like this, you know, this new band, I threw out this name, you know, I was booking some gigs and we needed a name. I hadn't gotten anywhere talking to them about it. So I went ahead and booked the gig under the name Flintlock.
Flintlock, okay.
Okay, so this band, like, what does a band called Flintlock play? Marshall Tucker,
yeah.
you know, blues songs, country songs, rock songs, and it's not going to be modern music necessarily.
Right.
It's going to be 30,
the
40
gives
years.
it kind of a more of an earthier, westerny kind of feeling.
Yeah, which reflects what you do. It's simple. People know how to spell it. I mean, it's not a big mystery. So I went in and booked it as that. So one of the guys didn't like it, and so we'll see what happens. But, you know, it's just like you got to choose something that's going to be easy to people to recognize, easy for people to understand, and so on and so forth. I mean, at one point, I called one of my solo bands Matt and Mason's Empires of Amusement.
Interesting.
Now
makes you sound kind of like a carny in a way.
Well, what it was an inspiration of, you know, all the things along Route 66,
right?
And it was kind of like, I believe, it was the title of a book, Empires of Amusement.
Okay.
You know, so they have the TP Curios, they have the TP Hotel, they have all these things along Route 66 for people to see. Yeah. You know, it's Empires of Amusement. I was like, I love it. Try explaining that to somebody who's booking the music, who's got a loud jukebox and whatever going on at the same time. They don't even understand what it is, you know? Right. So that was kind of a misstep, but I was pretty stubborn in those days, and I just was like, I'm doing it. I don't care who likes it or not. So,
yeah.
You know, and so
I still think you and I should have pursued the stuff. That was a great drunken revelation that we had that night.
Well, the original M&M was pretty good too.
That's true.
The original M&M, that was good.
So yeah, good stuff. So your opinion? I know a lot of solo artists do this, and it's all for the sake of branding and marketing. Where solo artists will actually work under a band name. You know, Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails, perfect example of that. Fight for Fighting is another one of those cases with John Ondrasek. They said you need to have a band name. So. Is that a better way of operating? Does it give, in your opinion, does it give the music a legitimacy that you don't necessarily get with a solo artist? Well, this is the band. I love this band. They're a band, as opposed to, this is a solo artist. This is a singer or songwriter.
Well, that's a tough one. You know, it depends. If you're Eddie Vedder, you don't have to really. Everybody's going to say. By now, Eddie Vedder is known as Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. Sure. You don't even have to really say that now.
Right.
Back when he first started doing his stuff solo, it was like Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. And then people start to make the connection, and all this is all orchestrated. These publicity firms and the record label and all these image consulting groups, they all get together, and this is all very calculated and very pointed. You know, they send the first 2 paragraphs of anything that any newspaper, blog, or anything's going to send. They send the first 2 paragraphs, and they insist you stick to that. And so they're going to get to a point across what they want it to be in the first. And then, you know, in 2 years, now we know who Eddie Vedder is. Absolutely. Even the people who don't realize that Pearl Jam isn't making records this year. It's Eddie Vedder by himself playing ukulele. Now all of a sudden they get it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, people refer to me as Hurricane Mason sometimes.
Right.
I don't.
Tom Skinner used to call you that.
Yeah, and I mean, I can understand why they do that, but I mean, I'm the most visible member of the band. I felt like, and I've had a rotating cast of people through there.
Well, you are the band. I mean, because you've had the rotating cast. Now you've had significant contributors, but as they've come and gone, it's
and so. I never really cared for that, but it's like the Alice Cooper syndrome. It's just like that. Kinda. I mean, he's had a bunch of different people now. His classic lineup was the first 4 albums, whatever. Then it started to get different. Now he went from a band name Alice Cooper to a guy Alice Cooper,
right?
Who that was enough to make people go, a guy named Alice? What is that? And so he's he's kind of like made that what it is over all these years of doing it. Works for him, and everybody knows him as Alice Cooper. Some might know him as his given name, Vince Fernier, whatever it is. Some might know him as that, but Alice Cooper is really what he's known as.
Sure.
And so, it all works out. One way or the other.
Is Jethro Tull known by his name, Jethro Tull?
Well, and the thing is,
everybody thinks that's a dude.
Yeah, right. Or Leonard Skinner. Everybody's like, the funniest thing is, he's a good singer. Leonard Skinner. That's not really one guy. That's not the singer. That's named after their high school teacher who used to kick them out of school because their hair was too long.
Yeah,
it's a play on his name. It's not one guy. Right. So I always get a kick out of that. It's really hilarious to listen to people talk about it. But, it's important when you're trying to, become sort of, a little bit more well-known outside your hometown, what you pick and what you want to use and what works for you and what doesn't, And so it's a struggle, but...
It is.
What isn't? What worth anything isn't a struggle?
I think the benefit of maybe going with a band name is that if you can get your name on there and get it trademarked, then you have, even if you're up and coming... and somebody else tries to get in there and maybe get a little bit more traction on it, then you can possibly, you may not be able to work under that trademark, but you could license it. So there's a stream of revenue.
Well, remember when Kiss did the solo albums?
Yeah.
Every one of those covers was the same. That was brilliant. It said Kiss in the upper left-hand corner, and then Ace Frehley, Gene Simmons. Everybody had their own thing. So there was no doubt about it.
Right.
Now, they had the added benefit of there's undeniable, nobody looks like these guys.
That is true.
And so that was kind of a special case. But, at this point, I'm kind of like, I'm looking at stuff like that. I'm reading about these things, understanding the business and stuff like that, Because without the business, then you can't go forward in creating art, I mean...
It's a necessary evil, that's for sure.
The bottom line, and I like to create art, so you got to pay attention to it a little bit.
So, you can create art all you want to, but if you want it to be heard, you've got to play that game. So.
And so what other ways are there to be heard these days? Well, endorsements are one.
That is true.
Endorsements are a good way, even if you're not Slash, even if you're not Eddie Van Halen, endorsements are a good way to kind of get yourself out there in front of a different audience and have kind of the support of a company and entity bigger than you. That's very valid.
And on that point, I have a lot of real estate right here, so if you guys want to endorse me, I'll wear your T-shirt. You can write big, bold letters. So, okay, there's my little plug. Continue.
So, endorsements, it's like nobody's going to get anything for free unless you're super well-known, super famous already. That's kind of the kick in the teeth with the whole thing. When you get to that point, you don't really need, a second guitar.
Right.
You've already got 200 of them. But, a guy like my speed, it matters. Have endorsements with Spectraflex Instrument Company, Instrument Cable Company, and those are, lifetime warranty. So you buy a cable, it goes out in 5 years, you send it back to them, they replace it for you for free.
How many people do you think actually do that?
I do.
I'm sure there are some, but I wonder if you really crunch the numbers and say how many people actually do it or how many just go out and buy a new one because they forgot that they had that lifetime warranty.
Well, and that's when I always tell them, I'm like, okay, this is the best deal. All right, so you buy an instrument cable. I think, when I first started buying them, they were like $30 for a 12-footer, which was like about 3 times what you could get like your average music store middle road cable for $10. Okay, so you buy that cable for $10. 3 months later, it goes out. All right, you buy this cable, another. So all of a sudden you've gone through 3 of these cables at $10 a piece in a year's time.
Sure.
You've spent the pain in the ass and the inconvenience of being out the cable when you could have just bought the one that's from Spectraflex, and when it went bad 5 years and 2 albums later, you send it to them, they send you another one.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a brilliant thing. But I think that from a business standpoint, it's probably also brilliant because they're probably gambling on the fact that maybe 50% of the people actually will take them up on the replacement.
Absolutely.
So they're like, well, we're ahead of the game then if they're selling for 3 times the amount. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, Craftsman, that was their big thing for years. And, you break a screwdriver, you go take it in there. And my dad actually took it in there and, go pick you out a new one.
Yeah. And, the thing about nowadays is, man, I mean, service like that is just very few and far between.
Oh, sure.
And I feel like, if somebody's willing to buy something from you like that, then you need to provide some service that nobody else does, and that's what's going to set you apart in the business world.
It also gives you the perception that you're standing by your product and that you have a quality product, because if you're putting together something shoddy, you're certainly not going to want to be replacing it. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're not sending me everything for free, but if they're sending me a $75 guitar cable for $30
that's a good
and
deal.
printing my name on the jacket,
nice.
Then I'm getting something out of it. Plus, I'm getting, a good source of good equipment that's superior to the usual stuff you see out there.
They put you on the website or anything like that as an endorsee?
I believe so. When I first got it, they put me up there. But like I said, it's not so much that you're going to get all this publicity from them necessarily, but you're going to get you generate your own publicity.
Sure.
So you do a video. Here's me and my Spectraflex instrument cable, or whatever it is, and you're kind of showing their product in action, and they kind of want you to be active on social media and do things like that. Another company I've got an endorsement with was Midas Guitars.
Midas Guitars.
And so I'm still trying to figure out which one of them I really want to get.
So they're offering you a deep discount as well?
Yeah, they're at this level, it's usually like dealer cost.
Okay.
And so, some of those guitars are $2,500 now. Now, this is the one that is the metal front or the shell front, like, Gilby Clarke, Tom Kiefer, Ronnie Wood, anybody in the 70s, they went to Zamida, said, "Hey, Tony, I want you to make this and do it custom like this." And those were all handmade one at a time. And so, they were expensive then, but it was kind of like a status symbol almost. Every rich English rock star had one of those. The first one of those I saw was he had made a double neck for Greg Lake, and it was like $60,000 for sale.
Jeez.
Then when Tony passed, of course, all that handwork, all those handmade ones went up to the ceiling as far as value. Now his son and his wife have continued the company with the same guy that was doing the engraving. And he was originally got his start doing shotguns, from England. They're real ornate engraving there. That's where that came from. So he's supervising this Japanese company that makes these now.
Okay.
And so, still the guitars are like $2,500. Well, that's a lot of money. And as being an endorsee, you get dealer cost. I mean, Black Friday, hey, here's something. Here's even bigger discount.
Nice.
And so, I mean, it's not like I'm, getting anything for free necessarily, but just, I mean, it meant a lot to me that a company with as much pedigree as that thought enough of me to offer me something like that. They saw what I was doing. They understood what I was doing. They thought, hey, this guy's active on social media. He will help us with our brand name. And, they're kind of going through a whole different level of the company now.
Well, when you do decide on which one you get, come back over here and we'll shoot an unboxing video of it for BandAdvice.tv.
I don't know if I'll be able to wait to unbox it. Could I just unbox it and then box it back up?
Zip it back, tape it back up.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll do it real careful.
Make sure you get the fingerprints off of it.
Yeah.
So because these lights will pick it up.
Another really good relationship I've developed too is with this small hometown music store in Nowata. It's Capstone Music, and it's your old mom and pop. Service. And, it's great, man. I mean, he was, I gave him my 12 string when I got hurt. I was like, all right, I'm not going to be playing for a while. Could you refret this, the first, 5 frets at least? Because it was getting to where it was all pitted out and everything else. It wasn't sounding good when I had a capo on there. And so he's had it in the shop, but he's backed up with repairs. He's had some, other issues that have prevented him to getting that refretted. Well, I said, hey, I got a few gigs coming up. I could get by, but you have a 12-string hanging around there that you could, let me take and do these gigs with. Yeah, so he's got another Alvarez 12-string in there that's just almost like what I was using.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, come take it with me and tell everybody what a great store this is. I'm like, deal.
That's great, yeah.
And so, I can go up there and say, hey, man, I need you to help me solder this, or hey, I need you to help me with this, or, hey, can I, whatever it is, man. And like those relationships like that, it's not like monetarily I'm making big money, but I damn sure tell you I wouldn't be out there buying a $500 guitar at full price the day of the gig to go run out there and try to make the gig, so.
But they also have a customer for life now too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And so, maybe this is my walk into Alvarez. Hey, Alvarez, I'm working with this smaller dealer in Oklahoma, and he's helped me out and set me up. I've been an Alvarez player for 25 years. Let's talk, know. And here's my, resume. Here's my social media stats. Here's my website. Here's all this stuff that I've developed, and they can kind of see, hey, this is some visibility for us in a big world of acoustic guitars that are, $100 to on up.
Right.
And that's really what it boils down to is, just traditional advertising just does not work anymore.
No. It's the whole influencer market now. So.
Yeah, right. You're, whether you're taking a picture of a restaurant you liked or, when you go up and pay, they're like, well, how'd you hear about this place? And you say, oh, my friend here, she told me about it, and they give you a, gift certificate. Well, that's kind of the start of influencing, being an influencer. And if you're, a big pop star, you can probably think they'll maybe give you some money to do that.
Right. You start slapping your name on like the George Foreman grill or even we were talking about that earlier, how Jay-Z, he was one of the masterminds in the whole hip-hop realm about going beyond just the music and becoming these endorsers and having just different stuff. And when he and Beyonce got together, he steered her career that way. It's like, you got to look beyond the music and you got to do fragrances and all this other things. And the music industry is about multiple streams of revenue anyway.
It's got to be.
Nobody's buying records anymore, and you can't go on tour, 2 or 3 years in a row, constantly nonstop. It'll wear you out. So, you got to have the different streams of revenue.
The founding grandfather of all this was Andy Rooney.
Andy Rooney.
He had this. He had all sorts of crazy ideas. He had this potato restaurant in Los Angeles, and it was all potatoes.
Huh.
And like. All kinds of crazy ideas of stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to whore out for every single thing.
Sure.
But you can sort of look at what Kiss has done.
Oh,
Andy
Kiss
Rooney,
is a master of
all
that.
these pop stars. You can kind of look at what they're doing and understand how it applies to your own thing,
Sure.
your own comfort level, your own level of acceptance as to how commercialized you want to be.
And that all comes with building the brand, having the right name, and all that stuff too. And Kenny Rogers had a chicken restaurant, which all my years of hearing about Kenny Rogers Roasters, the only time I ever ate at one was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
How was it?
Wasn't bad. It was just good roasted chicken. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody would get their name slapped on something somewhere along the line. So
Sure. And some of it's just, it's my friend, and I'm going to stake him in this. And
Sure.
For my exchange, we're going to call it Kenny Rogers Chicken, and I'll make an appearance once in a while. So it's just, and it's all can be custom done, custom made for whatever the situation is, It's like my friend Paul, Guitar Center has stomped out local mom and pop stores.
yeah.
And, I go in there and I see how they treat me, and I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't, this is like the discount music store of the country, and they're not going to be around very much longer.
No.
But,
you go in there and their inventory is less and less every time I go in there.
Yeah. And sometimes I find myself thinking, I don't need all these choices.
Right.
I don't need all these choices. Yeah. I just need, something that's actually proven and actually is good. I don't need all this.
Yep.
And so that's what I really like about these mom and pop stores, that, they're about service. They're about, different stuff.
Well, here's the story. One of them, I frequent a mom and pop store. I frequent all the time here. I was looking for a new volume pedal. Everybody says, get the Ernie Ball Jr. volume pedal. So I looked on their website. They had it, and they had it for a really decent price. I'm like, okay, cool. So I went on down there, And the guy goes, yeah, I got the one right here, but it was about $50 more. And I said, on your website, it showed it for this price. He goes, give me a second. He went and looked at it and goes, yeah, that's a typo, but I'm going to honor that price. I'm like, you sure? Because the amount of the difference was, it was definitely going to be below their cost. And I go, let's split the difference. Like, no, we're going to honor this price. It's
wow,
like, all right.
man, that's awesome.
That is, they've got me as a customer for life now. I will go there before anywhere else. I already do, but, even more so now.
Yeah. And some stuff, man, they just can't compete. I understand.
Right.
And the way anything retail's going is, it's going to be like a showroom. Remember, like service merchandise used to be?
Yes.
You get the catalog. There's a million things in the catalog, and they'll have a quarter of those in a store that you can, actually look at and
sure.
see.
Walmart's like that.
Yeah.
You go to Walmart.com, or I was actually looking for some foam to make a microphone box. Some of that multi-layered foam that you can peel apart and stuff. And Home Depot said that they had it. I go trucking on down there. No, not available in this store. But it says, or shoot, even Walmart. We went and bought something for our pool. I got online, and I saw the price for it online, so I go down to the store to get it. I'm like, no, that's the online price. That's not the in-store price. And it's $50 more. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, that's our online-only price. It's like, why would I? Never mind.
It's an incentive to move people towards
it's
that
almost
way.
a bait and switch, though. I mean, you're advertising, and then, fine print, this is our online-only price, but I want to buy it now. Mine just went out. I want to go swimming tonight.
But I think some of them are like ordered online, pick it up at the store of your choice.
Sure.
I think they're doing
5 days
that.
later, though. But I think I really, honestly, if you're going to offer it in the store and online, my opinion, it should be the same price. But that's my idealistic world,
Yeah,
which often isn't reality.
Right, me too, man.
It's us artists and dreamers, right?
Hey, man, that's what makes the world go around.
Sure does. Well, that's some really good insight. You have anything else you want to talk about with the branding? And
I think
how do you get me in on some of this endorsement stuff?
Man, listen, that's the Midas deal. They just came out and said, hey, we're looking for people to endorse. I mean,
right.
and I subscribe to hundreds of email lists.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, you can't read them all. But you just got to look for these opportunities, man.
Okay.
It's like looking in the cracks and looking under each rock 3 or 4 times to make sure you didn't miss anything. And they're looking for people to represent their product, basically.
Sure.
And so what could happen with that, I have no idea. But I do know that, it's a well-known, long-running, beautiful piece of instrument that I would be proud to play live. I just got to figure out which one it is that I want to get.
Well, we got a dartboard around here somewhere. We'll just do that.
It's hard because they make the shell fronts, they make the metal fronts, they have all kinds of different themes for the engraving on the metal front. Some have 24 frets, some have 22 frets. I mean, there's just a dizzying array of choices, and they're not everywhere, so you can't just run in there and play. I mean, if I had to go to Chicago and play one,
wow,
and so.
It'll definitely be a unique thing to see around here, these parts of the country.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, the place up there on Admiral in downtown, Guitar House, they've got a few of them.
Do they?
Yeah, they got a few of them. But, I mean, I played those, 2 years ago in Chicago, and then when I saw they were looking for endorsees, it was like, all right.
Yeah, that whole Guitar House moving downtown, it's kind of sad. I mean, when we first moved here in the late 70s, early 80s, that's where my dad would take guitar lessons up there off Admiral.
Yeah.
Now they shut that down, and I don't know.
Well, he's down there where, those acts come in to shows to play at the Brady or the BOK or whatever it is. I mean, I think he's got a lot better chance of selling an $8,000 Les Paul Jr. down there than he does on Admiral.
Remember Strings West when they were down? It's now a burger joint, but they were just like next door to Golden Pond, I think.
Yeah.
And they still have the big pole in the center where all the people autographed.
Yeah.
It's still there. So
yeah. Well, he's got. I think it's a Fat Phillies sandwich.
Yeah,
place
it's
now.
Fat Phillies, right? And I get Strings West still exists, but I think it might be up near your neck of the woods, though. Aren't they?
He's got a showroom in Sperry.
Sperry, okay.
Yeah, he owns a good part of downtown Sperry, and he made a lot of money selling vintage instruments, buying vintage instruments. Before there was really a vintage market, Larry Briggs is kind of like one of the first people that was buying this old stuff and selling it for a profit. And
right.
He's got a tremendous history and tons of photos and all kinds of stuff, and just
it's amazing.
It's kind of a call him up and he doesn't really sell to anybody unless they're famous now.
Right. I kind of got that impression.
Yeah. And so, hey, good. More power to him.
Absolutely.
I've read Roger Waters. They wanted to come up there and look. He didn't like Roger Waters' politics, so he told them no. It's like, man, you probably walked away from $25,000 sale for just holding on to whatever. Who cares, So. But that's another story.
Yeah, but just the history that's walked in and out of those buildings.
Oh, and he's got tons of pictures on his Facebook page and stuff, too. It's fascinating,
Oh, we should have held out until he endorsed us before we talked about it. Oh,
right.
Well. Maybe next time.
Right.
Anyway, as I was saying, I got plenty of real estate here. You want to put your logo? Fine. Just contact me or Matt. I'm sure he'd be glad to wear your shirt as well. So.
Yeah.
But until next time, good talk. Be sure to like us and subscribe and click the little bell so that you get the notifications of the new videos. We've got, of course, our podcast, and we got some other tips and tricks and other advice kind of videos out there. So bandadvice.tv is the quickest way to get to it. Until next time, I am Mark Allen V.
And Matt Mason.
All right, peace.
See ya.